we're going to talk boxing very shortly. We're going to be out in Turkey with Spencer Oliver and a bunch of others. We're heading there very shortly. We spoke about this, Simon, only yesterday. There was a chance of it happening, and it has happened. One, I can't really believe it, but I have to believe it. One Jake Paul is now an officially ranked boxer by the WBA. It happened last night. The news came through. It happens 3 days after he defeated Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. via a unanimous decision. And now, would you believe it, there is talk, albeit not too serious at the moment, but talk. The next for Jake Paul could be Anthony Joshua.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any credibility in that. I mean, ultimately what Jake Paul brings is enormous amounts of revenue to the sanctioning bodies. I mean, sticking him in at number 14 in the cruiserweights tells you one or two things. Either the organisation is devoid of any principles and integrity, which is entirely plausible, who put him in that position, or in fact that the cruiserweight division is not very deep in talent, or a combination of the two. I mean, he's not been in with a live one. He went in against a washed-up Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., I mean, he's been in with a couple of ex-combat fighters, MMA guys. So, you know, he can hold his hands up. Everyone knows he can hold his hands up. But when you talk to the boxing people, they'll tell you that he doesn't technically have any real ability. Paulie Malignaggi was talking about it yesterday. And everyone's quite desperate to see him get a punch on the nose because they know that he's been in choreographed events.
Well, let's get more on that, actually, Simon. I mentioned Turkey. Let's head out there now. Why are we going to Turkey? Later on this afternoon on the talkSPORT Boxing YouTube channel, you're going to get live boxing from Turkey, where Liverpool's Jazza Dickens fights for the IBA Pro Super Featherweight title. Let's head to Turkey now. The IBA Pro Convention is underway. I'm delighted to say waiting to speak to us is one David Haye. David, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, guys.
Good to speak to you. Your weather looks better than the weather we're getting here today. David, I'll talk about the IBA Pro Convention in a second. Simon and I were just talking moments ago about Jake Paul, now officially ranked by the WBA. What is your reaction to that?
I think it's great. If he wants to do professional boxing, then he fights, you know, professional boxers, and obviously he's going to be looked at favourably when it comes to the rankings. So if he's in the rankings, he's got to continue now fighting fighters in the rankings, so we'll find out exactly how good he is. So I think it's a good thing, because I think lots of people who wouldn't be interested in boxing are now interested in boxing because Jake Paul's doing boxing. If he was doing darts, they'd be interested in darts. He has such a big fan base. Anything that brings fans to boxing, young fans, I'm all for. And you know, he fought Chavez the other day. Obviously Chavez is Chavez, but it was a professional boxer who was once a world champion, and he won the fight convincingly. So he's fighting real boxers now, and they've chucked him into the top 15 rankings. So let's see what he can do.
Do you think, David, it's a good thing for him? Because what we've seen at this moment in time is a load of exhibition fights. It's one thing, you know, being able to throw punches against people that can't as much throw them back. Now he goes into a live situation. Do you think it's a good thing for him, David?
I think it's a great thing. If he genuinely believes and wants to be the world champion, then he's on the right path. He's doing what he needs to do. He's obviously got to step up his opposition. You know, Chavez, who's a former middleweight champion from 10 years ago, it's not what he's going to be competing against. You know, the Badu Jacks of the world and the fighters that he's going to need to beat to win world titles. But it's a step closer than the MMA guys he was fighting previously.
Some of the great and the good are going to be gathering with you over there in Turkey, the IBA Pro Convention. Spencer Oliver is going to join us later on and is going to explain more about that. What is your first impression of what you find yourself in there today, David? What's going on? What's it like?
They've brought in all of the big guns. You've got Tyson Fury, they've got Crawford, you know, Cannon the Shannon, you know, Derek Chisora is over there. You know, you've got everyone in boxing are here to see what they're about. They did a convention talking about how they want to. It's not just about professional boxing. They're invested like 25 million into amateur boxing, funding countries that don't have infrastructure. Really a big push on female amateur boxing to, you know, fund this talent from these countries that don't have the means to then turn professional one day and fight for the IBA title. And the thing that sort of struck a nerve with me was like, okay, they're a new governing body, and everyone's like, do we need a new governing body? But they don't want to compete. They want to work in conjunction with others as more of a, I don't know, it's a more holistic way of doing boxing. I know everyone's confused from boxing as there is WBA, WBC, IBF, WBO. So IBA now is in the mix, and what they're doing, which is quite interesting, is they're creating a gold belt. It's like 4 kilogram solid gold belt with diamonds in it for the champion. So I can guarantee you, instead of paying a sanctioning fee, 3% of your sanctioning fee, they're going to give you a belt that's worth probably a lot more than what the sanctioning fee you was having to pay. So it's an interesting way to go about it, but I'm pretty sure, you know, Tyson Fury is up on the stage talking. He said he wants to fight for that belt.
I'll bet he
does. They're going about it the right way. They've really heavily invested in this infrastructure. I haven't seen anything like it, to be honest.
Interesting,
David. It's interesting to see. It's very, very interesting.
Yeah, you've set the scene beautifully for us, mate. We're going to get more from Spencer shortly. 2 fighters, I would presume, who are too busy to be there would be Daniel Dubois and Oleksandr Usyk, who go head-to-head again very soon. We know what happened last time. Daniel failed in his bid to topple Usyk. What do you think, David, before you leave us? Second guess it for me this time, because it's fast approaching.
Yeah, I thought the first time Daniel had an opportunity that he was going to sort of grab it by the scruff of the neck, and outside of the low blow / borderline punch that had some effect, that was pretty much all he brought to the table in that fight. He was too respectful. We kept it too long range. The fight he had against AJ, very different from that, imposing himself, putting the pressure on, really bringing the heat, because he's a big, strong, rough, tough, got a great chin. He's got all the attributes, and he was able to implement them on AJ and show how good he was. If he comes to the fight with that mindset, just like Chisora did when he fought Usyk, you know, showed him respect, but when it came to closing the range down and bringing the heat, Derek had the best fight against Usyk than anyone's had. It's because he closed the range and worked inside. If Dubois can really impose himself and don't get involved in a boxing match, he's got a shot. Usyk's had his last 4 fights, you know, 2 fights against AJ, 2 fights, you know, against Tyson Fury, hard fights that he won, weren't life and death, but I think in the training camp he had to have those 4 fights, the big guys he was sparring. I know it's like sparring big guys, it takes a lot out of you. Has he taken too much out of himself? He's never lost before, undisputed cruiserweight, undisputed heavyweight, but at some stage you can't, it doesn't work anymore. I found that out. At some stage you can't do what you wanted to do. Nothing suggests he's that comes that close from his last fight. But when he's fighting a young, rough, tough Daniel Dubois with lots of confidence, who's been in there, knows what it's like, you know, he's got a shot, he's got a massive shot, but how do you bet against someone who's never lost? He doesn't know what it's like to lose. But I think if there's ever a chance for Dubois to beat someone like Usyk, it's now with the momentum he's got, you know, at home, he's got everything in his favour, and you know, Usyk has got nothing to gain really, because he's already beat. But he done the same thing with Tyson Fury and AJ. Gave them both rematches and done it better the second time round. So I'm really intrigued in this fight, and you know, everyone's going to be behind Daniel Dubois. You know, he's a great guy.
Sure.
Straight down the line, but he's fighting a wizard. He's fighting someone who doesn't know what it's like to lose, and yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we get another Usyk victory, but I also wouldn't be surprised if Usyk starts showing signs of age. Hard training camps, all those amateur fights, world championships, amateur, the WSBs, he's done so much, so many rounds on the clock, so many miles on the clock. He's pristine, but there's a lot of miles on the clock.
David, terrific. You're not showing any signs of age, mate. You're going strong. Thank you so much for joining us. David Haye.
No problem.
David Haye with us live on the show this lunchtime. We'll jump out for a second, head back out to Turkey after this.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.
We're everywhere today, but we're loving it. Over in Turkey this morning and into the afternoon, some of the top names in the world of boxing have gathered. So too, amongst them is Tyson Fury, amongst others. It's an IBA event. It's an IBA Pro convention. We heard from David Haye a short time ago, who was talking to us about Jake Paul, amongst other things, and who may or may not win when it comes to Daniel Dubois up against Oleksandr Usyk. But let's find out more about this convention and thereafter the fights that are going to be staged over in Turkey. And there's only one man for that job. Spencer Oliver, the much-travelled Spencer Oliver. Good afternoon. What's going on out there?
Good afternoon, gentlemen. Yeah, we've got a boxing show here tonight in Istanbul. Jazza Dickens goes in against Albert Batabayev, and it's going to be a big fight, that one. It's for the WBA interim world title, also the IBA world title on the line. Now, the IBA, to explain a little bit about the IBA, are their own federation. You know, it's a federation where they've been working alongside the amateurs, also working alongside the pros as well, and they're sort of trying to merge them together, if you like, and it's like the elite amateurs can box the elite pros, and it doesn't go down on their boxing records either. It's something new, it's something fresh, and I'll tell you what, there's a lot of interest in this. You know, you mentioned a couple of names there: Tyson Fury, Benn's out here as well, Derek Chisora's out here. You know, it's something that I think is really going to take off. Like I say, that close association with the amateur boxing, giving those kids the opportunity. A lot of the Eastern Europeans, and obviously with the pros as well, they want to work with the governing bodies, with the WBC, WBA, IBF, and all of the governing bodies, WBO as well. So it's interesting times right now, and it's a fantastic event.
I mean, I must admit, Spencer, I'm lost when we start talking about all these governing bodies. So what is different about the IBA?
So what the difference with the IBA is, the IBA used to be an amateur boxing association, so they were heavily involved with the amateur boxing, they were involved with Olympic boxing, but now IBA Pro, which is what we're going to see this evening. By the way, you can see that fight starts on the talkSPORT Boxing YouTube channel from 3:30 p.m. today. 2 bare knuckle fights on there as well. But yeah, the IBA, the difference with them is that they've now come into the pro ranks as well. They've set up their own foundation, and you know, and they're working. They're not working alongside BoxRec, and so the fights won't go on their records. So, like, to give you an example, you can have a kid that's an Olympic champion going in and boxing on the IBA show against a world champion, a WBA, WBC world champion. Them guys could fight for the IBA title, and it wouldn't go down on their records. But it's all about getting the best boxing the best. They've seen a gap in the market, and that's what they're trying to exploit.
I mean, when Spencer says, Simon, you get a bit of everything, it very much sounds like that. They've even thrown some bare knuckle fighters in there as well. I'm not entirely sure what we're getting, but there's a market for it. Of that, there is no doubt.
A lot of noise around boxing, isn't there? I mean, these are the guys, I presume, Spence, these are the guys that had all the controversy about the testing regime around Imam Khalif a few years ago, that the IOC weren't comfortable with. There was a suggestion that there were Russian influence was over them. They've now got a change of management, a change of ownership, haven't they? So I'm assuming they're reigniting and rejuvenating and revitalising themselves, and they've got a whole raft of thinking behind it, right?
That's absolutely right, Simon. You know, I mean, they're not just putting on these boxing events, and it is about giving opportunity to these Eastern European fighters that you see them winning gold medals in the Olympics, and they don't get that opportunity because, you know, they're not household names where boxing, you know, is really big, like America, like the UK, where they can't sell tickets, they're not going to get the opportunity. But now with the IBA, they can invest in these guys and give them that opportunity and give them that platform and the big fights. And the IBA, I think the idea of it was interesting today at this press conference. It's not just about, you know, the boxing shows and the boxers that they're trying to help out, amateur and professional. They're opening up gyms. They want to open up a gym in every capital of the world. That's their plan long term. They're talking about opening up gyms absolutely everywhere, and it's not just for boxers, but it's just helping the younger communities, etc., etc. So they've got a huge plan there.
What promoters are out there, Spence?
Yeah, we got. No, we haven't got any promoters out here right now. So it's all the boxers that have come out here, Simon. No promoters are out here right now. It's just all the boxers, and obviously the boxers have that interest because they've been asked to come out here, but they want to see what it's all about. Like I say, merging bare knuckle boxing with boxing's never been done before. There's a real interest with that. 2 fights bare knuckle boxing and this boxing. Jazza Dickens, you know, boxing top of the bill for a WBA interim world title as well. Yeah, it is a massive changing of the times, but people like change right now.
Very much so, Spencer. I would check your wing mirrors. There's some fairly shady individuals wandering around behind you, but we're keeping an eye on you. Spencer, thank you very much indeed. We'll head back out to Turkey shortly. If memory serves me right, Simon, all these different bodies, and now the IBA on the scene. I mean, is this not what the other Turkey Al Sheikh, was trying to outlaw, to bring together one identifiable body?
For his ends, right? So what you don't want is, you don't want a monopoly, because if he is the only game in town, then that's the only situations that you have. But what we've got is too many. We've got the WBA, the WBC, the IBF, the IBO, the WBO, the IBA. if what I'm reading behind Spencer's, I'm fascinated to understand how you're going to amalgamate amateurs and pros.
Well, right.
And what's the configuration going to be? Because the amateurs fight certain levels of fights. They fight in a certain way and certain levels of experience. And the pros are the pros. So it'll be interesting to see what the actual business model is. But, you know, they're all over there because ultimately they've been flown in and bussed in like Turkey does to try and get people in and around it, to give it some hype and some buzz.
Yeah.
Former heavyweight champion of the world, David Haye, Chisora has got currency at this moment in time. Tyson Fury, you know, fresh from filing his accounts this year, which shows he's got hundreds of millions in the bank, is over there.
They're all there.
They're all there.
We'll head out there actually after 12:30. We mentioned Catterall against Harlem Eubank this weekend, but before that, it appears some of the top names, not only in British boxing, in world boxing, have converged upon Turkey today. They're over there, albeit the heat is something else out there that we have witnessed in previous days here. But over in Turkey, some of the biggest names in the sport, Terence Crawford, Tyson Fury, have gathered at a thing called the IBA Pro Convention. Spencer Oliver joined us from it a short time ago. Let's head back out there. Former boxer and top trainer, a fellow we know very well on this show, Paul Smith, brother of Liam and Callum, joins us live on the show. Paul, good afternoon to you. I mentioned some of the big names that are there. So this is a significant event, is it not? It must be.
Yeah, hello to you boys. It's a big event, it's a massive event. Obviously there's been a lot of money, a lot of funds have been put into this, and some of the names here are out of this world. Obviously Roy Jones Jr., Shannon Briggs, all the old champions of yesteryear, current champions, people still fighting, like obviously Tyson Fury, who we think is still fighting, Terence Crawford being probably one of the best out there at the moment on the planet. Everyone's here to support the IBA and at this conference to see what the IBA are going to be starting in the near future.
And what are they, if you can condense it for me, Paul, what are they starting? Why does boxing need IBA Pro?
They're talking about a lot of transparency. You know, they want to give obviously boxers the best opportunities. They're talking about building an infrastructure where they help young boxers get into boxing gyms and fund the kit and fund things for them, so they don't have to pay to go to tournaments, so they don't have to then miss out on them tournaments, rather than not being able to go because of, you know, not having the best start in life, let's say, which I'm all for. Obviously then they're talking about, obviously then when the fighters get to these big title fights, they want to put the big fights on. They want to have their own fighters. There's a lot of Eastern Europeans in here, a lot of Russians, Kazakhs and the likes, who always have to leave their home country to go to the States or the UK to receive the recognition. And one of the people on the stage before mentioned that obviously then the people in the States and the UK won't really care as much about them as their home fans would. But this is a big platform for everyone now, especially in Europe, to now have good fights on and competitive fights for titles.
Paul, do you think it's a good thing? I mean, obviously the mood music is with Turkey Al-Sheikh saying we need to refine and streamline what's happening in boxing because we're getting the best fight and the best, and I'm going to do this by the Ring magazine, and I'm going to do it via my mechanisms. And now we've got Alphabet City again. We've got WBC, WBA, WBO, IBO, IBF, IBA. I mean, do you think I know you've got to be a little bit diplomatic because you're over there probably in their space, but do you think it's a good thing, Paul? Another facet, another faction.
Simon, listen. See, this is the thing. What's quite confusing, and when we got here, they explained they're not a governing body. They want to work with the WBO, WBA, the IBF, and the WBC. Now, I only recognise 4, and most people who are in boxing do only recognise the 4, and they're the 4 main ones. But for me, the more people that are trying to put good fights on, these are explaining that they want to put good fights on. Also, they want to come to Britain, they want to go to the States, they want to be all around the world. But obviously getting the best fight and the best is what we all want, and we're lucky that we've been seeing a lot of that recently with His Excellency, with Turkey Al-Sheikh, with the Ring magazine, with Riyadh Season, with Sella. But if this is another opportunity to do that, let's have it right, and let's speak brutally honest. You're not going to get fights unless you've got the best money, and if there's money on the line to put these fights on, then we're going to see the best fights. And for me, I'm all for that. You know, I'm really looking forward to Canelo Crawford's. I'm really looking forward to, even still, as we've said on the show, I'm still looking forward to seeing AJ Fury, but that's not going to happen unless both fighters are receiving, you know, massive amounts of money and the right platform and venue to have that fight on. But if the best fights are being made because there's a pot of money to do so, then I'm all for it.
Paul, we know that we're going to be seeing, whether many people like it or not, we're going to be seeing again Chris Eubank Jr. up against Conor Benn. Of course, your brother Liam fought on the undercard the first time around, and of course we know the first time around Eubank Jr. Won unanimously. A, are you having it? And B, what might you think might happen in the second episode of the two of them?
To answer your B, I think the same thing will happen. I thought it was relatively straightforward. I don't think it was a close fight. I thought Eubank and the bigger, better man won on the day, and I'm saying that knowing Conor Benn's just over my shoulder. I might be able to hear me, but a bit of luck it doesn't. But I think it'll be pretty much the same result. But and B, am I having it? I thought it was a good fight. I thought it was an entertaining fight. I thought the atmosphere was absolutely brilliant, to be honest with you. I thought the atmosphere was really good, but the atmosphere was a lot of nostalgia also. There was a lot of fellas my age, 40, 41, 42 and over, who remember the golden era of their fathers fighting and wish we had probably had them fights as well back in the day. So I'm for it. I'd like to see that fight again, because it was a very entertaining fight between two fighters who left it all in the ring.
What's the situation with Liam? Just in the passing, how is he these days, Paul? What's he up to?
He's here with me now, Jim. I'm sure he'd rather be on the paddle court, which is in the hotel, but he's here having to be at these conferences and everything else in a working capacity with Callum as well. So I don't know. Every answer he's been giving himself when he's been asked is he doesn't know. It's probably looking like he might retire, but at the minute, if there's an offer that comes in, and he'll have a think about it. You know, what he said last night made a lot of sense as well. He said, "Look, I'm looking at people like Dave Allen and others still fighting on, and I've got plenty more in the tank than them. But it's whether he wants to carry on at the level that he's been used to, and it's a big decision for him to make. So I think he's just letting the time go by and have a think about it."
Are we any closer to seeing what Callum's doing, Paul?
Nothing's done yet, Simon. He's in negotiations. He's talking with Benavidez. He's talking with his team. He's talking with a couple of other people to see what can happen. And he's looking around September, October, maybe November at the latest. But I don't think he's any closer as of yet, to be honest with you. After speaking to him last night and this morning.
Paul Smith, as always, it's great to speak to you, Paul. Thank you so much for setting the scene there.
Thanks, boys.
What's your reading into this IBA Pro convention? I mean, so many different people from different facets of life are out there.
I don't know.
Just saw Troy Deeney walk past Paul behind him.
I don't know. I mean, a lot of these things can be all fur coat and no knickers. I don't know whether that's the case of it, and I can't quite understand the model of it. I mean, I looked back at them previously, and there was a lot of controversy about what they did prior, and quite frankly, I think a lot of that controversy was concocted by the IOC, because it didn't like the fact that they were quite robust about the gender testing that went on with Iman Khalif, and the fact that Russians were involved in it, and they felt there was a lot of corruption involved. Now, I'm not suggesting that's the case. Now, I don't know what their model is. They are a sanctioning body of sorts, because they're going to fight for one of their belts. Now, I don't understand the dynamics of what Spencer was saying earlier on, and maybe he doesn't either, which is that the amateurs are going to fight the pros. But anything, I suppose, like Paul says, that puts a spotlight on boxing, that enables perhaps the best in class to fight
Nothing's
the best
off
in class,
the table.
then really and truly one should be all for it.
Yeah.
So until you've got a reason to be negative about something, I think you should always look at it with a half-full glass mentality. Okay. They're all out there. They're all probably enjoying their hospitality. They've all been paid to be over there. You're not going to get anybody turning around saying it's a load of old whatever. And we'll see what these guys are all about.
Okay.
Little cry, baby. I wanted to have a little drink with me when he wanted to impart a message. Now he's got a few quid in his pocket.
Oh, right. Well, Conor Benn is amongst those who have gathered for this event, the IBA Pro convention over in Turkey. Conor Benn, it appears, doesn't want to speak to Simon, but that's fine. We'll go over that. In the meantime, and by no means in any way a substitute of any sort, we're delighted that Derek Chisora joins us live from Turkey. We've heard from David Haye. We've heard from Paul Smith, of course, boxer now turned trainer, amongst other things. We've heard from our own Spencer Oliver. Derek, good afternoon. Can you describe the scene you're at there, this convention? It appears anybody who's anybody in the sport of boxing is there, and that includes you.
Let me tell you something, don't believe the lies. If they were not paying anybody, none of these guys would be here, fella, I'll tell you that now. But you know what, these guys are doing an amazing thing for boxing, because they are putting guys who haven't got no names anywhere on their platform, giving them money, making some money, and it's amazing, and everybody's here to support it. But at the same time we're here to support it, they're paying everybody, which is what we like to see.
Yeah, that's good, Derek, and it's a point well made. Derek, in this very studio quite recently, one Oleksandr Usyk sat in front of Simon and myself, and he said, who is my toughest opponent? My toughest opponent was Derek Chisora, and he made no bones about that. You're still a live one. What is next for you? Is there another fight on the horizon?
Yeah, listen, I'm the manager for the IBF. My position is secured. You know, I've had offers, you know, from Saudi, from Frank, And I told him, listen, my position, I'm still standing on my position. I don't want to have a warm-up fight. I don't want to support anybody else's card. I want my own card. I want to do Wembley, or I can do another country either way, for my goodbye fight, basically.
Well, who would you like to fight, Derek? I mean, obviously you're on a rich vein of form. Gerald Washington, Joe Joyce, Otto Walling, all great performances. You now give yourself an opportunity to do as you wish and potentially fight for another title. Who do you want to fight, Derek?
Yes, I want to fight for a title. I want to fight the best. I would have loved to fight Anthony, but Anthony right now is just recovering, getting ready for his biggest fight with Tyson Fury. So now I will push on to either fight Joseph Parker, or I'll fight somebody else. But right now, I'll just wait for the Undisputed to happen in Wembley with Daniel and Usyk, and then after that, I'll know exactly where my position is.
You mentioned in the passing there the prospect of Anthony Joshua fighting Tyson Fury. Is it your honest belief we'll see that will be next for the two of them?
Okay. Let me tell you something. If they don't give it, listen. Put it this way, whatever you think is happening is not happening. Go the other way, yeah? Because big news will be announced soon anyway. That's all I gotta say.
But you're giving us a little heads up and an exclusive there, Derek, and for that we thank you.
Hey, Daniel.
Coming up very soon, Daniel Dubois against Oleksandr Usyk. Who wins it?
Listen, save money's on Usyk. I'm not gonna lie to you, but you never know with this young kid right now. He's hungry. He wants it. This is a second time round coming around on this fight, Undisputed. So everybody's gonna be in his ear, pushing him. Doing everything right. So we'll see what happens on the 19th in Wembley.
Can I ask you, Derek, what you make of your old mate? I use a term euphemistically. Dillian Whyte going against Moses Atoma.
Listen, I say to everybody, the money must be right, because there's no light end of that tunnel, to be honest with you. I did message him. I was like, listen, I don't know why you're taking that fight, for what reason. And he goes, oh, he don't care, my friend. So I was like, listen, just be careful. And I messaged Moses. I'm like, Moses, just fight him, but don't put him to sleep that badly, basically. And I wish him all the best. I'll be there to support it, but I don't see that fight going. Listen, if that fight goes past 4 rounds, and then we're in trouble.
It didn't sound like a good luck message to your mate Dillian Whyte.
Listen, let's be honest. You're boxing a guy who's 24 years old, who's got all his faculties right, getting trained by one of the best trainers in the United Kingdom, and then, mate, it's like you got more chance of winning the lottery than you beating that Moses Atoma. Let's be honest about it. Yeah. So if you played the lottery today, probably would. I know you understand. So, I love Dylan, but the same things, how can I make it? It's like, put it this way, it's like Liverpool playing Champions League, playing the lower league for you understand what I mean, but it is what it is.
I'd love to have seen your text message. Good luck, Dillian. If you can, get them to call it off.
Thank you.
Derek, thank you very much indeed. Thanks for joining us live. Derek Chisora coming to us in a way that only Derek Chisora can, from Turkey. He is a character, isn't he?
Yeah, and he deserves the opportunities he's getting.
He does, you're right, Sam.
I was critical at times of the levels that he fought at when I thought about the third rematch against Dillian Whyte. But he's earned the right to keep on fighting. People worry about his health and so being. Yeah. And he doesn't. And if he gets a shot for the IBF, if it falls off the table as a result of the Undisputed and lands in the lap of Joseph Parker versus Derek Chisora, well, wouldn't it be a wonderful swan song for Derek to go out winning a world title? He wouldn't go out then, would he?
It would be a great swan song.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.